They say the last train of the night doesn't go anywhere, it takes you somewhere. I didn't believe it. Not when I heard the whispers from the janitors at the station, or the way the late night ticket clerk avoided my eyes when I mentioned the 317. I figured it was just a ghost story to scare drunks from sleeping in the seats. But now, I've been sitting here for 3 hours, and the train hasn't stopped once. And I think the passengers aren't breathing. The story begins, I work nights at a printing plant out in the industrial side of town. Pay's not great, hours are worse, but it's a job. My shift ends at 2:45 a.m., which puts me at the station with just enough time to catch the 317 southbound to my apartment. That night started like any other. I clocked out, walked the damp streets past the warehouse row, and ducked into the station, an empty, echoing space that smelled faintly of mold and hot coffee. Usually, there's at least one or two other night workers waiting for the 317, but that night, the place was deserted. The only person in sight was the old ticket clerk, Mr. Sanders, hunched behind the glass. He looked up when I approached, his eyes darting over my shoulder to the empty waiting area. "Southbound?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, sliding a few crumpled bills under the glass. He hesitated before taking them. Don't get off before you get home, son. No matter what." I laughed, thinking he was warning me about muggers or some homeless guy trying to get me into a card game. Sure thing. He didn't laugh back. The 317 pulled into the station with a metallic groan, brakes hissing like it had been running for days. I stepped inside and froze. There were people, at least a dozen sitting in the seats, all facing forward, perfectly still. None of them looked up as I walked past. Their faces were pale, skin waxy under the dim yellow lights, eyes fixed on nothing. I thought maybe they were all sleeping. I took a seat near the middle, dropped my backpack onto the floor, and waited for the usual jolt when we'd start moving again. The train lurched forward. We passed my usual landmarks, the rusted water tower, the row of billboards lit in sickly green, the dark stretch of forest. I pulled out my phone to check messages. No service. Not even a single bar. We were coming up on my stop, Milford Station, a rundown platform with a single flickering light. I gathered my things, but we didn't slow down. We didn't stop. We just kept going. I leaned into the aisle to see if maybe we'd blown past it by mistake. The platform was gone, vanished into the dark. I looked toward the front, toward the conductor's car, but there was no window, no view of the track. Just the stale air and the sound of wheels clattering against steel. That's when I noticed the man in the seat across from me. He wasn't moving, not blinking. His lips were slightly parted, and there was no condensation when he breathed, because he wasn't breathing. His chest stayed perfectly still. A cold ripple ran down my spine. I scanned the other passengers. Every single one of them was the same, unblinking, unmoving. The only sound was the train. I stood, gripping the cold metal pole, and slowly walked toward the front of the car. My boots clicked against the floor, echoing in the silence. Halfway up, the train lights flickered. For half a second, I saw the passengers with their heads turned toward me, all of them at once. Their eyes were solid black. The lights came back, and they were staring forward again. The door to the next car slid open with a screech. The conductor stood there. He was taller than anyone had a right to be, his uniform hanging loose like it belonged to someone else. His skin was stretched too tight across his cheekbones, and when he smiled, it didn't touch his eyes. "Almost there," he said. "Almost where?" I asked, my voice cracked. His smile widened just enough to show teeth. "You'll see." The door shut before I could answer. Time started to feel strange after that. I don't know how long we kept going, maybe minutes, maybe hours. The darkness outside had thickened into something that didn't even look like night anymore. It was heavier, like we were moving through ink. The air in the car grew colder. I could see my breath. The man across from me slowly turned his head. His neck made a wet, snapping sound. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, voice dry and hollow. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my bag. "What the hell is this?" His mouth twitched. "It's the 317. The lights flickered again, this time longer, and when they came back, his seat was empty. I grabbed my backpack and moved toward the rear of the train. I needed to find another passenger, someone alive, someone normal. But each car I passed through was the same. Rows of pale, silent people staring forward, hands folded neatly in their laps. In the fourth car, I stopped dead. The passengers weren't people anymore. They were husks. Dried skin stretched over brittle frames, mouths frozen mid-scream. Every single one of them was holding a ticket-old, yellowed slip stamped with a date that didn't make sense. Mine read October 14th, 1923. I dropped the ticket like it burned me. The train jolted violently, almost knocking me to the floor. A loud, grinding noise echoed through the cars, like metal tearing itself apart. I turned toward the back and saw something moving in the darkness beyond the last car. It wasn't human. It was keeping pace with us, long limbs bending wrong, face a blur of shifting features. Its hands, too many hands, were reaching for the windows, and it was smiling. I spun back toward the front, heart hammering. I had to get to the conductor, had to make this stop. But when I turned the next corner, the conductor was already there, waiting. "We're almost there," he said again. This time, his mouth didn't move when he spoke. The conductor's lips stayed still, yet the words echoed in my head like someone whispering from inside my skull. "We're almost there." I stepped back, my hand tightening around the pole beside me. "Where is there?" His head tilted, not curious, not confused, just studying me, the way a taxidermist might study a dead animal before pinning it in place. "You'll see," he said again. Only this time the voice was my father's exact voice. My father had been dead for 6 years. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Get me off this train." The conductor's eyes narrowed, his expression twisting like stretched clay. "There's no off anymore." The lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, the conductor wasn't a man at all. His uniform hung on a tall, skeletal thing, skin sloughing away from its jaw, eyes wide and glowing white. Its hands, long and sharp-fingered, were clutching the frame of the door, as if holding itself inside a human shape was difficult. Then the light steadied, and he was just a man again. I ran. Car after car blurred past me. The air was colder now, thick enough to burn in my lungs. My breath came out in frantic clouds. I didn't dare look at the windows anymore every time the dark outside moved. I caught glimpses of those two long limbs keeping pace with us. By the time I reached the rear car, I was gasping. I pulled up the emergency exit lever. It didn't budge. My palms slipped on the metal. I braced myself, shoved with my shoulder, but the door may as well have been welded shut. That's when I noticed the woman. She sat in the very back row, wearing a faded blue dress from another century. Her hands rested neatly in her lap, but unlike the others, she was breathing. I saw her chest rise and fall. "You're not supposed to move between cars," she said softly. Her voice was almost drowned out by the sound of the train, but it had a strange clarity to it. "They notice." I glanced over my shoulder. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked past me toward the darkness outside. "Sit," she said. I didn't want to, but something about her tone made me obey. I slid into the seat across from her, my heart still thundering. "They'll let you think you're alive," she said after a moment. "Right up until you stop asking where you're going." Her face was pale, but her eyes were sharp, almost fever bright. "When you stop caring, when you give up, that's when you join them." I shook my head. "This is insane. This is a train." "It's just a train." Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile. When was the last time you saw the ground? I frowned. She was right. I hadn't. Not since we left the station. I looked out the window. The darkness outside was wrong, too deep, too still, like we weren't passing through it, but inside it. You can't get off, she said. Not unless it lets you. What is it? I asked. Her gaze dropped to her lap. Not a train. Before I could press her, the car lights went out completely. The sound of the train changed. It was slower now, heavier, like the wheels were dragging across something soft. The air grew warmer, thick with a metallic tang that made my stomach turn. The woman's voice came from the darkness. Don't speak. I heard movement. Not footsteps, something crawling, scraping along the walls of the car. The sound of nails on metal, slow and deliberate. Something slid past my seat. I held my breath, every muscle rigid. A smell followed it like rotting meat left in the sun. Then, right next to my ear, a whisper, almost there. I clenched my jaw, biting back the urge to scream. The scraping moved on, the smell faded. And just as suddenly as they'd gone out, the lights came back. The woman across from me was gone. In her place sat a pale, stiff body with glassy eyes, its hands folded neatly in its lap. I stumbled to my feet. I had to get out, now. I pushed my way forward, ignoring the silent, unmoving passengers. The conductor's car was ahead, and beyond that, whatever passed for the front of this thing. The closer I got, the warmer the air became. A dull, rhythmic sound pulsed through the walls, like a heartbeat too slow to belong to anything human. The door slid open on its own. The conductor stood waiting, his smile stretched impossibly wide. We've arrived, he said. I stepped forward, my stomach twisting with dread. Arrived where? The world outside the train was wrong. We were at no station. We weren't even on tracks anymore. The train was resting on something that looked like an endless plain of wet black stone. Above us, a sky swirled with colors I'd never seen, like oil on water, shifting and alive. In the distance, I saw shapes moving. Some were tall and thin, others crawling low to the ground. They moved in jerks and lurches like puppets with tangled strings. The conductor gestured toward the open door. Step off, please. I shook my head. No, I'm not. The train lurched violently and I lost my balance. I fell forward, landing on the wet stone. The surface was warm beneath my palms and it pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. When I looked back, the train was already sliding away, vanishing into the dark. Something moved behind me. I turned. The shapes I'd seen in the distance were closer now, too close. And as they drew near, I saw their faces. They weren't strangers. They were the passengers from the train. Only now they walked in stiff, jerking movements, mouths open in silent screams. Their eyes, if they had them, were nothing but black pits. And behind them, towering above them all, was something else. Something with too many arms. Something smiling. They were getting closer. I backed away across the slick, breathing stone, my boots making wet sounds with every step. The smaller figures, former passengers, moved with that jerky stiffness, arms twitching, heads snapping at unnatural angles as they approached. The larger one in the back didn't move like them. It glided, its many arms swayed in slow, deliberate arcs, as if underwater. Every few seconds, its head, if that's what it was, tilted toward me. I didn't wait for them to close the distance. I turned and ran. The black stone stretched endlessly in every direction, a flat, glistening plain beneath a sky that churned like liquid glass. There was no sun, no moon, just shifting light that never seemed to come from anywhere. Every breath burned in my chest. My legs ached, but I kept running. It didn't matter. No matter how far I went, I could still hear them. The wet slap of their feet. The faint crackle of bone grinding bone. The whisper of the larger one's arms moving through the air. I didn't dare look back. After what felt like miles, I spotted something ahead. a shape jutting from the stone. As I got closer, I saw it was a door, just a door, standing upright with no walls, no frame. A rotting wooden thing with peeling white paint and a brass knob turned black with age. The whispers started then, not from behind me, but from the door itself, faint voices murmuring through the cracks in the wood. I grabbed the knob without thinking, turned it, and stepped through. The world changed instantly. I was standing in a hallway, a normal hallway. Beige wallpaper, humming fluorescent lights overhead, the faint smell of cleaning supplies. It reminded me of the maintenance floor in my old high school. I let out a shaky laugh, relief flooding me, but the relief didn't last. The hallway didn't end. It stretched in both directions, identical doors, every 10 feet. And the hum of the lights wasn't steady, it pulsed, almost in rhythm with the heartbeat I'd felt in the stone. I picked a direction and started walking. After a minute, I passed a door with a small frosted glass window. Something moved behind it, a shadowy figure leaning close to the glass from the other side. I froze. The shadow tilted its head. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and pressed it against the glass. Its fingers were too long. I backed away, never taking my eyes off it. When I turned the next corner, the hallway was exactly the same. The sound of footsteps followed me now. I glanced back and saw a man in a suit walking toward me. He looked normal human. His hair was neatly combed, his shoes polished. "Hey," I called out, my voice cracking. "Do you know how to get out of here?" He stopped walking. His face split into a smile so wide it looked painful. Then his jaw unhinged with a wet crack. I ran again. I didn't know how long I was in that hallway. Time felt stretched, sticky. Sometimes I'd pass a clock, but the hand spun in random directions. Every few minutes, I'd hear the muffled sound of the train, its brakes screeching, its wheels grinding, but no matter which door I tried, I couldn't find it. Finally, I heard something different, a woman's voice whispering urgently, "This way." I turned and saw her standing in an open doorway, young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a diner uniform with a paper hat crumpled in her hair. Her eyes darted down the hallway behind me. "They're coming. Hurry." I didn't ask questions. I sprinted toward her and slipped inside. The room was small, bare, except for 2 chairs and a metal table. She shut the door behind us and locked it. "You're not supposed to leave the train," she said, voice trembling. "Not unless it lets you. If you're here, it means it hasn't decided yet." "Decided what?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd just asked why the sky was blue, whether you're going to walk back on or be carried. I swallowed hard. What happens if I'm carried? She didn't answer. From somewhere outside the door came a wet, dragging sound. The woman's face went pale. She reached into her apron and pulled out something that looked like a rusted key. "When the handle turns," she whispered, "don't move. Don't breathe. If it thinks you're gone, it'll pass." The dragging sound got louder. The door handle twitched. Every muscle in my body locked up. My lungs screamed for air. The handle turned slowly, then stopped. Silence. I risked a glance at the woman. She was gone. The door burst open. The thing that stepped inside wasn't the conductor, but it wore his uniform like a skin. Its head scraped the ceiling, its arms split into writhing strands, each tipped with a human hand that clenched and unclenched in the air. It didn't walk, it folded forward, pouring into the room like water. I bolted past it, back into the hallway, not caring where I ended up. The hum of the lights grew deafening now. The floor beneath me, vibrating like something huge, was moving underneath it. And then I saw the train. Through a door ahead, the familiar yellow-lit interior stretched before me, empty seats waiting. The 317, I stumbled inside, slamming the door behind me. The air was warmer here, but the smell was the same faint metal, like blood and rust. The passengers were still in their seats, still unmoving. And at the far end of the car, the conductor was waiting. "You ran," he said, his voice almost amused. I gripped the nearest seat, my knees threatening to give out. "Let me go home." The smile spread across his face again. "You already are." The train began to move. Outside the windows, the darkness was deeper than before, so deep it felt alive. I didn't see the stone plains anymore, just black. But in that black, sometimes I could swear I saw faces. Faces of people who'd once been alive. Faces of people who'd stopped asking where they were going. The train screeched to a stop, no station name, no platform, just a vast, mist-covered expanse outside. The fog glowed faintly, as if lit from within by some alien sun buried deep beneath the ground. The conductor slid open the door. "End of the line," he said, voice almost gentle now. "You should disembark." Derek's legs felt like stone, but something pulled him forward. Every passenger filed out in perfect order, silent, no hesitation. When he stepped onto the soft, wet ground, his shoes sank slightly into something spongy. The fog swirled around him, cold and damp, but it carried no earthly scent, just a strange metallic tang, like the air before a lightning strike. He turned to look back at the train. It was still there, but wrong. The windows stretched longer than before, the shape bending in subtle ways that hurt his eyes to follow. The passengers were no longer people, not entirely. Their outlines flickered like unstable film frames, sometimes revealing long, jointless limbs or faces without mouths. The conductor stepped down last, hat still perfectly tilted, smile calm and uncheckable. "This is your stop," he said. "You boarded the 317. This is where it brings you?" Derek swallowed hard. "Where is here?" The conductor's smile deepened, not friendly, but knowing. "It's the place between," he said, "before the world that comes next. You'll wait here until you're called, just like the rest of them." The fog thickened, curling into shapes, faces, whispers, hands reaching out and then dissolving. Derek took a step back, but the ground seemed to pull at him, holding him in place. All around him, the other passengers began kneeling, their heads bowed toward the glowing mist. Something in the fog moved closer, not walking, sliding. Its shape was impossible to focus on, like trying to see the edges of a shadow that wasn't cast by light. But he could feel it looking at him. His heart thundered. "I don't belong here," he said, voice trembling. "This isn't my stop." The conductor tilted his head, almost pitying. They all say that, at first. A cold wind rushed past, and the thing in the fog came close enough that Derek felt it deep. Alien weight in his chest, like his heartbeat was being counted by something older than time. The mist coiled around his face, sliding into his nose, his mouth, his thoughts. Memories began slipping away, not all at once, but in quiet, almost polite thefts. His apartment, his favorite song, his mother's voice. One by one, they dissolved into the fog. "Stop," he shouted, but even the sound of his own voice began to feel unfamiliar. The conductor leaned close, whispering, "It's easier if you let it happen. The 317 always delivers." The last thing Derek saw before everything went white was the shape in the fog bending toward him, and a mouth, impossibly wide, opening to speak his name, his real name, the one he didn't remember anymore. And then, just like that, Derek was sitting in a seat on the train again. The lights flickered, and the conductor was walking the aisle, punching tickets. "Next stop, almost there," he said with a smile. Derek looked out the window. There was no city, no station, just endless black. The train rolled on.